way. Come on, Areelu. Enough. Enough hiding. Maybe I should rest. Well, maybe not.
This is where it happened. It was here that I conducted the ritual, sewing my soul and the essence of the abyss together, feeling the world change around me as every stitch brought Galarian closer to the abyss. And it was here that even though you have no memory of it, I did the same to your soul. A researcher must not have any personal feelings for the subjects of their experiments. And yet, I find myself unable to remain completely detached from the world wound. I created it. I allowed it to be. It holds a place in my heart, even if I'm slowly paying for it with my life. A researcher must be particularly resilient in the face of mistakes, incorrect hypotheses, and failed experiments. You are my failed experiment. I think I'll feel some regret for ending your current life, but you can rest assured that such sentiments will not stop me.
Look at that. An Arcana check passed. I can tell you've been preparing this place for battle, but there is something more to it. I sense barrier spells waiting to be activated, and there is something else, something deadly.
You're so adept at magic. Of course, I've been preparing for our meeting. And hopefully I've prepared well.
So you've done all of this just to save your child?
Yes. And no. Even if I could have brought back my son, I wouldn't have stopped at that. I wouldn't have been satisfied. Not after what I'd gone through. Not after the things I'd learned. I wanted to become stronger. And I wished the same for my child. I didn't want to be afraid of anything. It wasn't the dogs of Threshold, or even Sarkoris itself, that threatened us. It was the laws of a world governed by death, weakness, and separation. That is why I needed the power of the Nehindrian crystals. I did not wish to merely stave off the agony of the wound. I wanted to tear my son from the grasp of everything that makes us weak and mortal. You have seen a goddess. You have been face to face with demon lords. Were you awed by their greatness? Do you enjoy living in a world where your entire life cycle has been predetermined? Where everything, from your birth to what will happen to your soul after you die, has been decided for you? Or do you find, now that you have experienced the mythic power coursing through your blood, that you prefer to live in a world that you can change? A world that offers you a chance to be anything you want?
I enjoy having power, but only because it allows me to make the world a better place. To make the world a better place, this very I'm thinking between 1 and 4. Let's go with 4, because I'm a paladin.
I also want to make the world a better place. But not for everyone. Only for the one person I care about.
Right, why did you call me your failed experiment?
When I poured what was left of my son's soul into your soul, I was expecting it to bring him back. They say death and the judgment of Pharasma purges the soul of everything it once was in life. But this cannot be true. I have researched this subject meticulously and have collected enough evidence to prove that supernatural beings born from mortal souls can recall their past. Sometimes partially, sometimes fully. I watched you day and night, waiting for it to happen. For your memory to awaken, or your instincts at least. For anything familiar, something I could immediately recognize. I tested you. I asked you questions and... nothing. Nothing.
You merged the remnants of your son's soul with mine, so why do you want to harm me?
If a hypothesis is proven wrong, it needs to be rejected. But the research process does not stop there. That is all I can tell you right now.
You've been carrying the wound in your soul for a long time. Does that mean you will die soon?
It will kill me eventually. But I still have some time left. Years, or decades perhaps. But it doesn't matter. One of us will die today.
What happens if one of us steps into the wound?
The tearing of the soul, followed by a cruel and terrible death. But it will likely be quick.
I have no more questions, or I'm not gonna attack.
And it's finally time to end all this.
I mean, you're too dangerous to be left alive, Areelu. You're crazy, and you've done a lot of bad things.
Yes, it was bound to happen, and happen it will. I am ready. Death is not the end. I have spent 100 years trying to prove it, and I will not stop now. This experiment was unsuccessful, but that just means I need to adjust the initial conditions and try again. I am still alive. I still have time. You, the current you, will have to die, but only to surrender the soul you share with my son. I will start over. This time I will do everything differently. I will work with even greater precision. I will turn the world upside down if I must. I promise.
Okay, well, let's check you out, Areelu. 92 AC could be a bit problematic, I guess. Looks like we'll have to do a lot of dispelling. Work here, Areelu. I don't have summons. Where did she go? What the hell was that? Oh yeah. Come on. Stop running. Oh, okay. It's a bit of a problem. Bit of a problem there, Areelu. Okay.
Be responsible for the creation of my most powerful enemy.
Looks like there is a phase 2. I can see you, Searcher. Show yourself.
I've been waiting for you to get distracted, so I can stab you in the back.
I've uncovered your plan. The spells in this chamber, they are designed to kill you if something goes wrong. You've been preparing for this outcome from the start.
How very perceptive. But you didn't think I would make it easy, did you? I won't let you win. You need me alive. You want to use me to close the wound, but I can destroy myself before you have a chance.
Oh, there's a diplomacy check. This is madness, an act of evil, and it's absolutely pointless. You won't accomplish anything. Is this really how you wish to go? Don't do this.
You're right. I won't gain anything from this. So what now? You are stronger than I could have anticipated. As your creator, I should be proud to be defeated by the one I have imbued with power.
Oh, maybe there is no phase 2.
Is there any higher praise? But I'm tired. You won't hear me pleading. Let us finish this experiment here and now.
Interesting. Now you'll die, giving your life to help the world, to heal the world wound. I'm not going to sacrifice you. I mean, she's mad. She's too dangerous to be kept alive. So let's ask this question. Is this over? Now you will die, giving your life to help to heal the world wound that you created. Do you have any last words?
Here are my last words. I regret nothing.
And we have lawful angel mythic path. Use Areelu's soul to close the wound. You have brought unspeakable evil to this world, Areelu. And now, at last, you will atone for it. At least in part. The wound must be closed so the world can breathe freely once more. Or I can just say farewell then. I regret the thing you've been through, but evil must be cast out. And accept what is okay, let's use the angel mythic path and a lawful action. Looks like this is it. Eliandra, the world wound is no more, it's gone. Oh, my beloved land. My fallen Sarkoris. You are free at last, there will be no more bloodshed, no more corruption. It's done. This was worth an eternity of torture in the abyss. I would suffer it all again just to witness this glorious moment of victory. Glory to heaven and glory to you, Commander. It seems impossible. Areelu is gone, and so is the wound. We are free of that accursed witch and her terrible creation, and after 100 years, all it took was a single mortal. A mortal who became an angel. No, a mortal who became something more than an angel. I've never felt such joy and delight in my life. And I live another 100 years, and I will probably never experience a moment like this again. I want to heal wounds and celebrate our victory, but there is something else we must do first. You've already killed the Scary. Right now he is weak, vulnerable. Most importantly, he is no longer immortal. If we go to his realm now, my radiant friend, we can end him once and for all. Is the Scary still dangerous? Yes, he is evil beyond measure. All demon lords are vile and dangerous, but he is unique in his ambition to destroy the entire mortal world, and he will not stop there. He seeks to invade heaven itself. Eventually he will regain his strength, and then he will seek revenge. He bears a special hatred for you because you have defeated him once already, but he will also pour his wrath against the people of this land. We cannot allow that to happen. Now, if I kill the Scary, he will stay dead. The problem is, if I kill the Scary, that will probably make Nocticula very, very strong. But then again, maybe let's hope I am strong enough to deal with Nocticula anyway. Right, let's go to the Abyss and get rid of him. I've never felt this eager to go into battle. I want to watch the sun rise, knowing that this land, no, this entire world, is no longer under the threat of demonic darkness. I am the flame. Defeat the Scary once and for all in his realm. Yeah, I mean, probably that Nocticula's stronger, but do I really care? Also, the problem is we have 2 casualties from the previous fight. So, how can I do that? Are we just gonna... Okay, the 4 of us should be enough. Hopefully. They are fairly weak. Still have all the buffs. I mean, can I rest Ember and Nenyo though before I go? Maybe there was an option saying rest before you go or something. very slow. Oh, there he is.
Mortal gnat! How dare you fly into my realm?
Step forward. I silence your echo. Intimidate.
He was just an echo.
Step forward. Another intimidate. I close the world wound.
You closed the world. So what? You may have delayed my plans, but you will not stop me.
Another intimidation check. Step forward. I kill you in this. Now I'll kill you again, and this time your death will be permanent.
No, I will not die at the hand of this former mortal.
So we're trapping him, so he can't teleport. But for 2 casualties. I'm not really sure how we're gonna do it. Still pretty strong. God damn it. Alright. These guys are running in fear. So... what's wrong with you? I do have some good spells here. That's for sure. Like this one. No, let's just try and nuke him down, I guess. You're stunned. No, maybe we can nuke him down. Maybe we can't. Alright, 2v1 now. Well, 3v1, Tyrion still alive. Can you attack the boss? Please. Alright, he's dead. Okay, well.
Know
Array of
that
golden-
I will be happy to welcome you into heaven after your earthly deeds are completed, if you so desire.
They are waiting for you there, in the halls of heaven, where true angels belong.
The legions of heaven are in need of a new commander. Someone who will defend the innocent and remain steadfast in the face of evil. Will you accept my invitation? The gates of heaven await your arrival.
Okay, my time here is at the end. I'm ready to go to the upper planes, and I hope someone can rest Scylla, Ember, and Nenyo.
It's all over. The world wound is closed, and Discari has been destroyed. The Rasping Rifts no longer have a demon lord, but a new monster could lay claim to this realm. Is there anything else you would like to do before we leave this abode of evil and horror?
Angel Mythipath. Let everything burn in a cleansing fire.
this be a lesson to every demon lord. They cannot torment the mortal world with impunity. Commander, today you have achieved the greatest victory of all. Your crusade is over, but your story is not finished. Your future awaits. Your glory will live on through the ages.
The gleaming gates of heaven open before you, beckoning you into their loving embrace. The voices of the angelic choir rises in a sublime crescendo to welcome their new hero. Your future legions stand ready to greet their new general. Okay. Who's gonna win, me or Oh my god. Is this for real? This is actually gonna kill me. This is so funny. I need to heal, but how? Can I heal myself with this? Oh yeah. Okay, that's good. For real. It's a bit anticlimactic, but hey. There are some flies that we need to kill. Alright. Perfect. Alright, I'm off. Life and death, destiny and great deeds, answers to mysteries, the search for one's true path. The mind can comprehend all of these, and then such concepts can be written down as a sequence of formulas, a series of lines, a chain of thought. Still, a moment always comes when it's time to wrap up, to reach a conclusion, to put a period at the end of the last sentence. The impossible rift, the bleeding wound that had tormented all of Golarion for 100 years, was finally healed. The life and soul of the one who once inflicted this wound upon the world became the slave, the self. With the death of the witch Areelu Vorlesh, the world wound she had created vanished as well. The holy flame that engulfed the rasping rift was felt throughout the abyss. The anger and fear that overtook many abyssal lords almost led to the creation of a coalition against heaven. But like many other demonic undertakings, this alliance crumbled to dust under the weight of strife. Even heaven had never known a greater miracle than that of the mortal who had vanquished the demonic power seated in him by another to ultimately become an angel, a true champion of Golarion. After his victory, the commander did not set aside his flaming sword, and instead made his way to heaven to continue his service in the name of God, of good, and justice as a general of the angelic host. But Golarion was never far from his thoughts, and he would often descend to its lands to help those who were suffering or to visit his friends. The impact of the commander made upon the world was not confined to the elimination of the wound. Across all Golarion, thousands of hearts were now aglow with the light of compassion. Songs and legends about the commander spread across nations and cities, giving hope to the despotent, urging people to help each other in times of need. The Holy Wardens preserved their brotherhood and would often launch raids against cultists and demons who still skulked about the land. The two seasoned paladins, Yaniel and Berengar, came to enjoy each other's company both in battle and in peace. Their age, similar personalities, and unusual fate brought them closer together. Whenever they appeared, they would always be followed by a crowd of young warriors and curious onlookers, all of whom craved to hear the stories or imbibe some of their wisdom and skill. Despite all of Keter's efforts, word that he was always quickly spread amongst the Sarkorian's refugees. It eventually reached the ears of his wife. She had grown old but lived still. And one day they met again under the stone tree after having spent almost 100 years apart. Eliandra, who had given almost her life over to duty, devoted herself to the revival of the former lands of Sarkoris. Temples of Pulura and other Sarkorian deities opened their doors once more, and the priestess were eager to help heal the wound the wounds of the people and the land. Targona and Lario could not remain on the material plane for long. They joined the commander in the heavenly host, but whenever their mortal comrades asked for their aid, they would always answer the call. As of the leader of the Crusaders, the commander won their loyalty and obedience. Even in the Crusaders' darkest hours, the commander found ways to restore the army's supply lines. His military acumen was beyond question. Under his leadership, the divided, poorly trained Crusade forces were reforged into an invincible army. Due to the success of the commander's diplomatic strategy, by the end of the war, Mendev's true political center was Dresden, not Nerosian. After gaining the support of foreign rulers and finding allies in the capital, Dresden became the shining example of the new Mendev, one that was nurtured by the commander's ideas. The Andorran forces departed occupied Mendev as promised, but they left seeds of unrest in their wake. Andorran was gone, but its voice could still be heard throughout Mendev. The significance and accomplishments of the Crusade were so great that even a century after the end of the war, Dresden retained its prominence on the map of Avishtan. The commander's diplomatic, military, and administrative talent turned the fortress into a key political player. Queen Gulf returned to Nerosian with the intent to rule Mendev as before, but as it turned out, Mendevian society was hungry for change. The war-ravaged nation desired new leadership, but the queen would not countenance yielding her authority to anyone else. She believed her duty to her homeland had not yet been fulfilled. Upon his return to Canabres, Halran ranted and raged against those who had been governing the city in his absence. But contrary to all expectations, Halran's inquisitors were far less vicious than in days past. It seemed the time he had spent fighting in the Fifth Crusade had tempered him somehow. The wardstones from the chain that once guarded the borders of Mendev were carefully disassembled. One by one, the angels that had been trapped inside returned to heaven and to heal their wounded spirits and prepare for new battles against evil. Ah, there she is, Nocticula. The victory over the World Wound changed many things, not just on Golarion, but in the Midnight Isles as well. Nocticula spent many days pondering the words of certain young and fearless prophet. Before long, the Lady in Shadow openly renounced her realm and named herself the Redeemer Queen. No way. This revolt against her own demonic nature transformed Nocticula, severed her ties with the Abyss, and brought her to Elysium. There, upon creating a realm named Midnight's Palette, the Redeemer Queen attained divine power and became the patroness of exiles. What? Ember. Oh my god. The now vacant throne was instantly seized by Shamira, of course, the Ardent Dream. However, her power could not compare to the might of the Lady in Shadow. The Midnight Isles, which had become a tempting prize for many demons, were plunged into chaos. The Demon Lord Baphomet suffered a defeat, the World Wound was closed, and the convenient passage to Golarion was sealed along with it. Baphomet shifted his attention to the realms of the other Demon Lords. A cell of the Templars of the Ivory Labyrinth was soon discovered in Alushinira. The Demon Lord Descari died his final death, and his cult perished with him. His followers and demonic minions entered the service of Descari's sire, Pazuzu. Whether Pazuzu's terrifying rage stemmed from his offspring's demise or from his failure, none can tell. The commander's escapades in Alushinira left a lasting impression on its denizens. Under Ziklek's management, the Battle Blitz gradually fell into decline. Audiences had grown bored of ordinary gladiator fights, and the Nahindran League closed due to a lack of members. Realizing that his talents as an arena steward would never be appreciated in the Abyss, Ziklek sold the Battle Beast and used the proceeds to relocate to Hell, where he finally found himself at home. The unrelenting killer and vigilante known as Red Mask continued her purge of Alushinira and assembled a full squad of Aasimar assassins. Demons enjoyed listening to the stories of their bloody exploits. That is, until the assassins came to collect their heads. The place where the commander's camp had once stood became a symbol of freedom for runaway slaves in the Abyss. They flocked to the Nexus by the hundred, and erected a real fortress which held out against several assaults by the slavers. Eliandra returned to the Temple of Pulura's Fall and resumed her service to her goddess. Pilgrims began to arrive both to worship the goddess and honor the memory of fallen defenders who had held the line in obscurity for over a century. Many of those pilgrims remained at the temple and helped to restore it and purge the surrounding lands of the undead. Slowly, life began to return to Sarkoris. Gamersha was true to her word. The Wintersun clan left the land of their ancestors. Once they had left the borders of the former Sarkoris, the clan split into several branches. One went to the woodland of Numeria, others set off for free Varisia. A small group led by Geshmera chose to travel to Andoran, where they were lost among the many refugees fleeing other lands and other wars. The Wintersun clan ceased to be. The Tiabres were adamant about retaining from military service, leaving it all behind and escaping together, but urgent Eagle Watch business forced them to stay for a week, then for a month, then for many years. Even as Anevia cursed their lot, however, her eyes would shine with pride, for she was always the first to admit that Irabeth was not the kind person who could just up and retire. The drench known as Searcher never made peace with the loss of his mistress. He retreated to her old laboratory, where he wandered the empty halls, activating the magical projectors again and again. For in their pale light, there still lived an image of the one who had become so important to the solitary demon. The abyssal boy named Jorges had intended to leave the material plane, but a conversation with the commander after the victory over the Wild Wound caused him to change his mind. The details of his these conversations are unknown, but a week later Georges knocked on the door of the Pathfinder Society's Grand Lodge and was accepted into the society as a ward. It was the beginning of a long adventurous saga. The commander's decision to destroy the Numerian device that he had captured in the Blackwater clan encampment had dire consequences. Free of the mechanism that inhabited and controlled it, the mysterious core of the device soon awakened and vanished in a flash of magical energy. Within weeks, Numerian hunters began to tell tales of a strange construct that they had encountered in the mountains. It was the skeleton of a machine of some sort, alien, incomprehensible, that had been built by people with hollow eyes. For many years, Venture Captain Hiller continued to wander Golarion in a hopeless attempt to hunt down his nemesis, the Spinner of Nightmares. Though she had long been dead, his madness drove him to hunt her time and again. His hunt ended on Old Road in the River Kingdoms, where Hiller saw a group of monsters attacking an innocent family. He managed to save only one of them, a young girl who had been orphaned on that terrible night. Hiller took her in and was forced to temporarily halt his search of the Spinner. This pause lasted for a month, then a year. Abandoning his hopes for reuniting with Lori, Hiller found a new purpose in caring for another person. Over time, he was able to once again find joy and hope in life. I thought he was dead, but whatever. The storyteller, as old as the tales he collected, continued his travels across Golarion and occasionally beyond. He knew that out there somewhere, there was one story he would never find, his own. Once again, Scylla heard the call of the open road. Even valiant paladin can prone to self-doubt, and after everything that had happened to her, Scylla wanted to sort out her conflicting thoughts and emotions of her own. The war was over, but Lance still did not feel his duty was truly done. He had intended to die in the war, but for reasons unknown to him, his life just went on and on. He helped mongrels find their place in the surface world and kept putting off his dream of going on a sea voyage. His dream was never realized. Ember joined the Redeemed Brotherhood. She never recognized herself as the leader or gave any orders, but very presence inspired the former miscreants to perform great deeds. Over time, the Brotherhood grew into a major religious movement. Its preachers took a vow to poverty and walked the roads of Golarion, helping the needy, convincing villains to change their ways, and entreating both good and evil deities alike to be more merciful and mortal kind. Ember, probably my number one in terms of characters. Here's my number one in terms of battle abilities after my main character. And maybe Sela actually, who was a very good tank. Soon after the war, the tireless researchers of all things researchable embarked on a new journey. She had a sudden urge to know how much time it would take to visit every nation on Golarion. She returned after a year and a half with a pile of notes, which she promptly handed over to her assistant. After all, some had to help her compile the entries for the first volume of the Encyclopedia Golarionica. It only made sense for her assistant to help, given that one of the entries was dedicated to him, the commander of the Fifth Crusade who had made Golarion history. Diran Arende returned to Mendev, and as expected, he was swiftly dealt with by the Inquisition. Whether he was hoping to use his connections and resources to warn his way out of his fate, or he simply had no strength left to struggle against, it is anyone's guess. The Count's prison was an asylum for the magically gifted. The treatment left him so buoyant, Rek who was scarcely aware of his surroundings. That's not great. There were rumors that a group of unknown conspirators tried to exploit the situation and put the Count on the Mendevian throne. What could be more convenient than a king who needs to be spoon-fed his policies and who will sign any decree that is placed under nose? Ember, his friend on his long wanderings, was one of the few living souls who did not forget about Diran. Only her rare visits could awaken a spark of awareness in the Count. To his own surprise, Woljif became a war hero. Esteem and fame were shortly followed by great wealth. The Tiefling did not let his newfound fortune turn his head, but chose to invest the money in several profitable ventures and one charity for street urchins. Within a few years, his signature style came to include a top hat, a cane, and a bit of a belly. He always kept a bottle of his best liquor and 2 cups at the ready, just on the off chance that his chief would swing by for a visit. After the victory, Sosil returned home. Now a famed crusader hero, he humbly officiated at the Temple of Shelin, painted, grew sweet-smelling fruits, and made the best wine in the region. His former kindly smile returned less and less often. He avoided talking about the war, and when people asked about his brother's fate, he just curtly replied that Trevor had been killed by demons. During the war, Sosil met an engineer by the name of Aaron Keir. That meeting turned into a friendship, which turned into love, and then it was time for a wedding. Later, the cleric would say that only the memory of his beloved had allowed him to cope with the terrors of the abyss and keep his sanity. The commander was among those invited to the wedding. Having received an invitation to the wedding, Sela was torn about whether or not she should attend. She felt her appearance at her friend's wedding would be a bad omen. In the end, she politely declined. Regil wrote a treatise on a waging war and the demons, both a practical manual and a philosophical exhortation. And once that was done, he was succumbed to the bleaching completely. Okay. He was posthumously reinstated in his order and buried with honors in the officers' cemetery. His treatise was used in all future wars against the Abyss by mortals, angels, and devils alike. Before he died, he managed to send a letter to the commander. Did it contain sincere farewells or a list of directives? Impossible to say. No one was privy to the contents except the recipient. Arushale had changed her nature, completely ridding herself of evil, but she would not dare to live among mortals. She took up residence in a small house away from the settlements. Shortly afterward, rumors began to spread. Some said that there was a kind sorceress living in the cottage, or perhaps a reclusive saint, and people would come to her asking for help. She never refused anyone, and in time she earned their trust and friendship. One day, a familiar figure appeared on Arushale's doorstep, Sela. She stayed as a welcome guest for several days, trying to soothe the turmoil in her soul. It is not known what the commander's two companions, the paladin and the former succubus, spoke about, but when time came for Scylla to set out again, a smile was playing on her lips.
And what of me, the writer of these words? The half-demon witch known as the architect of the world wound. I was defeated and fell at the hand of the one I had tried to transform. My experiment ended in failure, and my life ended along with it. I have recounted the story of my life for you, Pharasma, Lady of Graves. Not only of my life, but of the commander's also. I believed the tale of such an illustrious figure would pique even a goddess's curiosity. Now you know everything. I await your verdict, goddess.
Ooh. Silence hangs over the boneyard. The Lady of Graves is waiting her decision, and it seems the entire universe is holding its breath, awaiting her pronouncement. Who would dare to break a silence so absolute? Oh. Let's intervene. Diplomacy. I appeal to your mercy. The plains have suffered enough. Do not add to the evil already with yet another act of evil. Religion. I appeal to your mercy. Of all the gods, Ayomade was the only one to fight against the world wound. Even you stood by and did nothing. Doesn't that suggest that the world wound was not so great a threat to the universe, and Areelu's crimes were not? I appeal to your sense of justice. Religion. Okay, so 34, 33, 34, 33. Right. Success! Your words ring out in the silence. They are heard, considered, and given their due weight.
The laws of the universe have existed for millennia. They are incontrovertible. But even they allow the decider of fate some degree of influence over the verdict. You wrought great evil, while it stemmed from the evil that was done to you. Your actions far exceeded it. Your soul is dark, and there is only one place for you in the universe. And yet, the one whom you harmed most of all now appeals to me on your behalf. I shall send you to the Maelstrom, the plane on the edge of the world. A place to which the gods' gazes do not stray. There you will find yourself. Or you will perish in the whirlwind of chaos that is your soul. So be it. Now you, the mortal who has risen so high as to stand boldly in the presence of the goddess of fate. You have done the impossible, and you will be remembered as long as this universe exists. Go, live out the rest of your life. I look forward to tales of your future deeds.
And this is it. This is the end. Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. I spared Areelu there because if Nocticula could change, maybe Areelu can change too. Right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.